Is that a trick question? This man was a bona fide scrub. Bona fide scrub.
This dude, I believe he's a bona fide superstar right now.
Right. Oh, well, of course, it's all about winning, baby.
Yeah.
Welcome back to another episode of the Star and Scrub NBA podcast, joined by Lee, as always. For the Atlantic Division, we've got a few guests on here today. Lee, are you excited? We've got a few mates on, hear a bit of their bias bullshit, as I called it at the end of last episode, but we'll see what they've got, shall we?
We got some diehard fans on here. This division, there's a contenders in here. There's storylines galore, mate, and we've got some great mates coming on. So I think it's going to be the best episode yet. You excited, mate? This division?
Yeah, mate. There's a clear top choice, I think, in the Brooklyn Nets, but there are plenty of storylines floating about. That is for sure. And we've got Will Heyward on for the Brooklyn Nets, Alec Bastick for the New York Knicks, and Sam Fergusson for the Philadelphia 76ers. But we'll start with the Boston Celtics in alphabetical order. We'll go through their ins and outs here. So they've brought in Chris Dunn, Bruno Fernando, Al Horford, Enes Kanter, Josh Richardson, and our man Dennis Schroeder. Outs go Big Taco Fall, Evan Fournier, Semi Ojeleye, Tristan Thompson, Kemba Walker. They've re-signed Marcus Smart and Robert Williams. Now, my first question to you is, you've stated on our podcast multiple times that you are of the diehard belief that Jason Tatum can be the best player on a championship team. What's the timeline for that from your perspective? And with this roster as it's presently constructed, what's the ceiling, I guess, for them at the moment?
I still have not wavered from that. I think Jason Tatum is probably just one of my favourite players to watch for his age and the skill set that he brings. I think that in terms of timeline, though, I reckon definite contender, maybe 2-3 years. I'd love to see some more tough, grizzled vets on there as well. I think they've got their youngish type of players, and I think I love the versatility of this roster. I think in the past, when they brought in the Tristan Thompsons, they brought in the Kemba Walkers and stuff, even the things they did really well, they couldn't really do well anymore. So these guys, like Dennis the Menace, but as a backup point guard, he's one of the best six men in the league. I think Josh Richardson, a defensive kind of guy. Marcus Smart, obviously, they re-signed him. He's a core of their team. So I think another healthy year of them. And I think what's underrated about these Boston Celtics is how much playoff basketball they've played. I feel like both Jason Tatum and Marcus Smart as well have been in the playoffs every single year of their careers. And I think another year under their belts, I think the jump Jason Tatum is going to make this year is ridiculous. I'm going to put him in there as my dark horse MVP. That's how serious I feel about him. But yeah, I've got them making playoffs. I could even say second round of playoffs. I could see them making how am I crazy? Am I crazy, mate?
No, you're not. You're not crazy. They'll be around that mark, and they should be. I don't know. We talked about it 12 months ago in our previews, I think, or at some point in the podcast last season, and that was basically where they were in terms of their roster. They should be disappointed with where they're at now. Yes, they've still got a nice roster, but when they had Kyrie and Gordon Hayward and Horford next to Tatum and Brown and Marcus Smart, like that was a roster that I thought, wow, this team could win multiple championships kind of thing. And now they've kind of just got Tatum and Brown. Horford's obviously come back. I don't know if he, in the Celtics system, can rediscover some form, I guess, because he was okay for the Thunder last season, but then Philadelphia the season before, it was a complete write-off with him next to Embiid. So I'm interested to see kind of what their starting lineup looks like, because, I don't know, I think I heard a podcast maybe the other day where there was talk that they're actually going to start Marcus Smart at the point and then maybe play Richardson and then Brown and then Tatum and either Horford or I guess they've still got Robert Williams there, who is a strange player for me because he always, when he's on the court, he always looks really good, but then he just doesn't get a whole lot of playing time sometimes. It's a bit of a weird one for me. So, no, I don't think you're crazy at all to expect a second round performance, I guess.
Well, I think, yeah, as you said, they're taking a step in the right direction. And I want to know, just in the East, I'm wondering if people are sleeping on them, honestly. Like, it's underrated type of team when they come up against most teams. Because on paper, you'd think, yeah, this has actually got the talent. Marcus Smart's a tough defender, and they're a first-class organisation. So are we sleeping on them, or you still have them repeating almost what they did last year? Do you see them?
More so repeating what they did last year. I still think they're a rung below, and I guess I asked you what the ceiling is for this roster as constructed, and I think, yeah, second round is. I just don't see this team being a championship team. If as of next season they acquire Bradley Beal in free agency and pair him next to Brown and Tatum, then yep, I feel a lot more confident in that, obviously. And then in that situation, Tatum may be the best player in a championship team. I still have little reservations about that, I guess. But next to Beal and Brown, I can understand that. Next to just Jaylen Brown and like Al Horford, Marcus Smart, no, I'm not as optimistic, I guess, that they can go any further than the second round. Their line is at 45.5. Did you have them over under that, and where did you have them sitting in the Eastern Conference?
Yeah, so for all this talk about Jason Tatum and stuff like that, I've actually got them finishing sixth in the East. I'm not ready to go crazy. I think my love for them is just purely based on Jason Tatum, not in terms of all these new pieces. So yeah, sixth, and probably almost say no bet. I don't at this stage. Yeah, how far off?
Yeah, I had them fifth, so I actually have them a spot higher than you. But I think if I remember back, we may have had the Celtics and the Hawks switched around. I think you might have had the Hawks fifth, the Celtics sixth. I think that might be correct.
I had the Hawks fourth, Heat fifth.
Okay. Well, I still don't understand why you had the Heat so low, but anyway, it's what it is. Yeah, I think it's a no bet as well, 45.5. They'll be around that mark. They're going to be a goodish team. They're going to make the playoffs. I don't see them falling off a cliff at all with the amount of young talent they do have. I just, as I said, have reservations about how far they can actually go with this roster. What do you make of Tatum? Because you obviously said he's a dark horse MVP candidate, but then you have the Celtics finishing sixth, so is that probably too low? And where do you see the improvement in his game?
Yeah, I think you have to be MVP, probably be looking to closer to top 4 seed, but I think he can sneak into almost top 10, because I was doing the top 10 players in the NBA last time, and I realised Kawhi Leonard's not going to be out in this. I'm not going to be here for most of this season anyway. And I just looked at, the names in there, and I think he could. How high are my expectations for him? I think it's just the efficiency and winning basketball, because he was hitting clutch shots down. I swear he was hitting a clutch shot every other week and things. So I think, his improvement will be more winning. His experience, the amount of experience he's had, he's played so much playoff basketball for such a young player. So I think, being a leader and winning basketball is where I see the biggest improvement for him.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I still think even in his own personal development outside of winning, there's still some extra things to be found there, like I guess the efficiency from the floor. Defensively, there's no reason why I think he's grown to like 6'10" now. With really good athleticism, there's no reason why he can't be a really, really good defender. His playmaking off the dribble and stuff like that as well can be improved upon. So, I mean, the sky is the ceiling for Jason Tatum. But, it's probably not going to be this season. You have them sixth, I have them fifth. They'll be around the mark. But other than that, we'll get into the first of our guests up next. Will Heyward, massive Nets fan. They're going to be an absolute juggernaut this season. Looking forward to it. All right, welcome to the massive Nets fan, our man Will Heyward, also in Melbourne along with Lee. How are you enjoying lockdown on a Sunday morning?
Look, it's all right. You make the best of a bad situation,
That's it. All right, let's jump into the Brooklyn Nets, your team, the juggernaut that they are. They had a massive off-season again, bringing in LaMarcus Aldridge, DeAndre Bembry, Javon Carter, James Johnson, Patty Mills, Paul Millsap, and then Cam Thomas, little steal in the draft there. They re-signed Bruce Brown, KD, of course, why not, and Blake Griffin. Outs go Spencer Dinwiddie, Jeff Green, Tyler Johnson, DeAndre Jordan, Timothé Luwawu, Cabarrot, and Landry Shamet. Now, the line here for them is 56.5. Will, as a massive Nets fan, mate, is there any excuse outside of injuries for the Nets not to win the championship? Because I think we all agree that if not for injuries in the postseason with Kyrie going down hard and playing on one leg, you probably would have beaten the Bucks and you probably would have gone through and won the championship. Are there any excuses whatsoever outside of the injuries?
I don't think so. Not at all. I think we're in our second year now, and so I think also that's underrated from last year. That it all came together. These guys had never played together before. And so, we did it. We did it in our first year. Well, we almost got there in our first year. So second year is only going to be better. And then we've also added better pieces. I mean, Millsap's going to be big. I think Aldridge in the few games he played last year really showed that he hadn't really lost it. I don't think there is any excuse at all.
Fair load, Russ. Yeah, well, health is with the thing we have to talk about with the Nets. As you know, you and I have been in some heated debates as to Kyrie Irving and his health for the team. You never know if he's going to be healthy or if he's just even going to show up to a game sometimes. And we've discussed the Ben Simmons for Kyrie Irving in terms of trades, and I want to ask you directly, who would add more to your roster, Ben Simmons or Kyrie Irving? Seriously.
Kyrie Irving, without a doubt. I've had
Without
this
a doubt.
conversation with you however many times, so now I'm glad everyone else gets to hear it. But get that name out your mouth, honestly. It is a silly hypothetical to start. I mean, you've got Kevin Durant and Kyrie are great mates. He brought him to the team, so it's just not going to happen for starters. For seconds, Kyrie just did 40, 50, 90 splits, and I also think if you're saying that, you clearly didn't watch when the Nets' big three were together at all last year, because that Nets' big three.
Well, they were there for 7 games.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. They played 8 games together, and those were some of the best games I've ever seen. Just not necessarily in results wise, but you could see that chemistry building. And I just think that when you have 3 of the top 15 players in the competition on the court at one time, there is nothing anyone else can do. I just think it doesn't. I know you're going to argue that defensively Simmons adds that to your roster, but seriously, the best defense is offense. I'm flipping that around, and I just think that it just doesn't make sense to do that when teams were wondering what the hell they were going to do. We had Harden running the point, and when you got Harden running the point, and they're kind of leaving Harden on the 3-point line because you've got so much talent around him, and he just also happens to be one of the best scorers in the league right now. Whereas if you put Ben Simmons on that roster, I think that's just one more weak spot for a team to go at, to be honest.
I see Simmons slotting into that small ball 5 position very easily, and another because you're all very thin. If I was to pick one weakness for the Brooklyn Nets, is how thin you are, and I saw Giannis beat up some of those Brooklyn Nets, and I don't want Kevin Durant to be the main guy defending Giannis the entire game. If Simmons slops into that 5 position very easily, Harden's got the ball handling duties. You can't guard Kevin Durant, and Simmons, I think if you put him in that dunker spot for offensively, I think he'll be just fine. But obviously relationships are involved, and I don't think the Nets would want to give Philly more of a chance anyway. So I just thought I'd bring it up one more time, see if your mind would change this time. But I've got them finishing second. I think Harden, that's an anomaly. He never gets injured anyway. So for him to get injured in the first place was weird. But I've got them finishing second and probably even over the 56.5 line. Where do you have your Nets finishing?
I would have us third. And I think that's purely due to the fact that we saw, even when the Nets weren't fully healthy last year, and you had Kyrie playing on his bullshit, whatever Kyrie was doing, you still had Kevin Durant with a mystery injury sitting out 40 games. And I truly don't think he was injured for much of that. So I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised to see us, just throw 20 games away to sit the lads, to be honest. I don't see regular season being a big deal, and I probably see us going under that total.
I have them. I have them first, and I understand your thoughts because I agree completely that this roster isn't constructed to go out and win 60, 65 games or just try and win every game on a nightly basis. At the end of the day, you're looking for a championship. But I also think that now the Bucks have a championship under their belt, they're not necessarily going to be going as hard either in the regular season because they know that, hey, we've now been there, done that. And I just think they're going to have a similar mindset where, again, for them, it's not now about how high they finish during the regular season. It's about preparing and being ready for playoff basketball and trying to win a championship. So that's why I had them first. I do have them over 56.5, but again, I do agree with you that there are going to be games that they just take nights off and just lose games of basketball. So it's probably a no bet for me. Just another quick question. I'm super fascinated about the front court here for the Nets because you obviously bring in Aldridge back in, you bring Millsap in, you've still got Blake, you've re-signed, you've got a young guy there in Nick Claxton who I think's got a lot of talent. I'm just interested because to me, like at this stage of their careers, Aldridge, Millsap, Griffin are all kind of small ball fives as such kind of thing. They just don't have the athleticism at this stage to play at the 4. And then you've got Claxton there. How is Steve Nash going to kind of separate those minutes around to give? Because they're guys that are all going to need game time, I guess.
Yeah, look, I think it's an interesting one. I think you're going to see starting minutes for Aldridge. And I know that sounds weird considering he stopped playing with a heart problem. But I do think that you're probably not going to get cleared to play with a heart problem unless they're pretty sure that you're right to go. And I know that when he was playing relatively big minutes when he signed last season, we looked mighty good. And then you'd probably play Blake at the 4. And so I think I don't know how Millsap slots into that, to be honest. I think and then Claxton's probably now going to see under 20 minutes a night, which is disappointing because I'm a massive Claxton fan. I have as much of an idea as the next guy. I reckon it is going to be heavy on the vets though. I think Blake won't play the 5 as much.
Can I just cut you off there? Sorry. So are you saying he'll play backup 4? Because to me, you've obviously got Kyrie, Harden, KD, Joe Harris has got to start still. So it's not like they're going to start Blake and Aldridge together. So you're saying Blake's more of a backup 4 kind of thing?
Yeah. Backup 4, I reckon. I suppose it depends how durable LaMarcus Aldridge is. Because end of the day, I think when it comes down to the crux of it, Griffin probably will play that 5 role like he did in the playoffs. But I do think for much of the regular season, you're going to see Aldridge get pretty good minutes if he can handle them, I suppose. And Blake probably will play the backup 4.
Yeah. So are you saying that you prefer LaMarcus Aldridge over Blake Griffin? Because I'd be gobsmacked if Aldridge was playing more minutes than Griffin across the regular season.
Oh, prefer? I don't know. I just see I suppose I'm more willing to lose Aldridge than I am Blake Griffin, and I see his. I know that kind of seems silly, but I see his durability being an issue. Both of their durability's been an issue. And I suppose end of the day, once again, I don't see this regular season being a difficult one. I think A, they're going to take it relatively easy, and B, the ease at which we were playing basketball when we were fully healthy last season just lends me to think that I think you're going to see a pretty large amount of rotations at that spot. And then it'll all come to the crux come playoffs.
Yeah, for sure. Anyway, Lee, got anything else that you would like to ask Heyward, or do we want to wrap it up?
Are you sure Simmons for Kyrie doesn't? Are you happy? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just playing with you, mate. No, good to have you on, mate. And it's going to. They're probably the championship favourite at this stage. Me being a LeBron fan saying that, but exciting season ahead, that's for sure.
Yeah, LeBron's got nothing, mate.
Thanks for joining us, mate. Enjoy the rest of your lockdown, however long that may be.
Oh, thank you very much, boys. Go well.
Thanks, mate. Next up, we've got the New York Knicks.
We welcome Alec Bastick onto our podcast, probably the biggest Knicks fan, one of the most loyal New York Knicks fans, I reckon. He's been there for the dark years. Great mate of ours. How are you feeling, Alec?
I'm excited, boys. I'm excited to be here. Thanks very much for having me. We've got the Star and now the Scrubs is in you two boys on today.
Whoa, he was shots fired early. I like this. New York Knicks, probably one of the teams that everyone watched last year. Big ins, Dwayne Bacon, Evan Fournier, and Kemba Walker, who I thought was a great signing. They re-signed Alec Burks, Taj Gibson as usual, Nerlens Noel, Julius Randle, breakout year, Derrick Rose, and the outs are Reggie Bullock, Frank the Tank, as I saw this morning, Dallas Mavericks, Elfrid Payton, and Theo Pinson. Now, Alec, obviously massive season, finished fourth, playoffs and everything. I want to know, in terms of next step, what's the best case scenario for the Knicks this season? What do you really want to see as a fan, maybe as a franchise? What do you want to see?
I think best case scenario we're looking at is probably taking the fourth seed again, which is everything goes right. We're not going to push into that top three. That's pretty hard to get to. But it's developing the young talent. It's going to be Barrett coming along, Toppin coming along, quickly coming along. The old guys are good, they're steady, but they're not going to win you finals. They're not going to win your playoff matchups. As good as they are, as good as Randall is, and I hope Kemba can be, they're not winning playoff series and then championship.
I kind of want to back up, just one additional question there, actually. So, out of those young players, who do you definitely see as the future right now? If you were to pick, you mentioned a couple of names just then, but who do you definitely see right now?
Barrett came a long way. It's hard to say. Quickly was flash in the pan, but he doesn't have the playmaking ability at this point, and probably doesn't project to be a good enough scorer to be the man. So I'm going to have to say Barrett. He can do a bit of everything. He came a long way last year. He has that drive. He's one to look out for. I think he's going to come along nicely. In 3-4 years now, we could be looking at an All-NBA type player.
Yeah, no, I agree with you that the Knicks are around that mark again as they were last season, but we just had Heyward on before chatting about the Nets. It's going to be, when you're coming up against KD and Kyrie and Harden, as good as the Knicks may be with, Kemba and Julius Randle there, it's going to be difficult to knock off a team like that kind of thing. But my question to you was, it was a bit of an interesting off-season with all the signings and re-signings with like Derrick Rose, obviously bringing in Evan Fournier and the likes. With those contracts that were handed out in free agency, do you think the Knicks front office are just waiting to kind of stack those contracts together to get a star player when they become available? Because you've got those contracts there and you've also got the young guys. You talk about RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickly, Obi Toppin, those kinds. So you can kind of put a package together for a star player. Do you think that the Knicks are kind of in the running for that when that star player becomes available?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this before coming on. I was like, we've got the contracts, we've got the players. If we bring, say, a Lillard in, it's not enough. But I think now we've got the guys in the front office. We just get that one more star to pair with Randall, then the third one will come. And that's what it's all about at this point. So I'm happy to sell the farm, get the star in. I do see that's what's happening. And we got Kemba on $8 million a year. If he comes around this season and plays like 3/4 of Charlotte Kemba, that's a steal. That's a great contract. Fournier, maybe a little bit overpaid, but you can throw him in around that $20 million mark. He's tradable. He's only got the 3 years, so he's going to be a pretty team-friendly contract going forward. He's another one we can get rid of and then package them up with all the rookies, all the picks we got. There's a package there to be made, and that trade can get done. Pair Randall, say a Lillard Beal type, get him in the garden, get the third along. Knicks basketball back.
I think the NBA is seriously better when the Knicks are going well. I loved when they were winning how MSG looked. Now, Alec, you might hate me for this. I've got you finishing ninth. Out of the East.
Ninth. What did you have last year? 14?
I don't think I'm even that low, but ninth, and it's purely because the East is so much strong. Like in terms of how much each team upgraded, I think that's why. Am I being crazy?
Ninth. We got rid of Elfrid Payton and brought in Kemba. Is that big an upgraded point any team is going to have?
Wow.
Can I double down here?
Wow.
I've got them ninth as well.
Oh.
I've got them ninth as well.
You brought ninth.
I agree with Lee, though. I agree that I just don't think, Kemba's a good in, but Kemba hasn't played well for a couple of seasons, really, and until I see his body back fully healthy, I just don't know what I'm going to get and if it's going to be a massive upgrade. I know it's an upgrade on Elfrid Payton, I get that, but how much of an upgrade, I don't know, and all these teams around the East got a lot better. You talk about the Bulls. I mean, I thought the Wizards got better, even though they got rid of Russ with all the signings they had. So, I don't know. Where have you got them? You obviously think that fourth is a best case scenario. Yeah. What's your realistic scenario?
Well, I'd say ninth is worst case. Worst case. And that's where you got to finish in. Worst case scenario. That Kemba doesn't work out better than Payton. That Fournier is not better than Reggie Bullock. We got Robinson back in. The kids are getting older, more experienced, and you got us sliding to ninth.
I like the argument, but
That's okay. I hope I'm wrong. Just because, yeah, I like the argument, but I'm just thinking top end talent. Like I look at my Heat, we've added like all stars, and I look at all the Brooklyn Nets will be healthy. I look at the Hawks, the season they had. But listen, mate, I hope I'm wrong. You're a great mate of ours. Sam Kingston's also a great mate of ours. I hope I'm wrong, but
The other thing as well, is Julius Randle had a great season last year, but that was a flash in the pan kind of thing. I won't call it a flash in the pan, but I want to see it again. I want to see him back that up because that was, he obviously won most improved. That was a major jump from everything else that we've seen in his career. So can he back that up? There are just some question marks around there. Like, I'm not sure how good RJ Barrett can be and all these other young guys. Like, they don't scream all-star caliber players as such at this point. So that's just my reservations, I guess.
Yeah, we got that Thibodeau defense, which is ultimately what carried us last year. It's ultimately what's going to carry us again. And put in two more offensive players, we're going to be able to score the ball. We're going to be able to run with the big dogs. I would say 6th and probably 44, 45 wins.
Okay, yeah. So the line is at 41.5. So you got them overs. Lee, you and I got them unders, given we've got them 9th.
yep, yep.
I don't know. Like, at the end of the day, we did have them towards the bottom of the Eastern Conference last season, and they did surprise us completely. So I do hope that they can do it again, but we've obviously got reservations.
Yeah, well, you're lucky I'm a big fan. I've been listening to all your other previews, and they've been horrible as well. So
That's all right. Well, how about we finish it off on that negative note, shall we? A bit of banter going on here. 9th place position for Lee and I, and Alp's not too happy with that. But anyway, thanks for joining us, mate, and sorry for getting you a little bit annoyed and riled up on this Sunday morning.
that's all right, fellas. Thanks for having me.
Anytime.
I'm good one. Best of luck with it.
Thanks, mate. Philly up next with Sam Fergusson.
We welcome Sammy Ferg, a diehard 76er, onto the pod now, ready to talk everything Philadelphia. How you feeling, mate?
Not too bad, boys. How are you going?
Not too bad at all. Be a lot to talk about, and we'll try not to make it 99% Ben Simmons. Big ins. Andre Drummond's signing was probably one of the funniest things I've ever seen, I reckon. Him and Joel Embiid thing. Joel Embiid, more of an extension he got. Danny Green, they re-signed. Korkmaz, they re-signed. The outs were George Hill, Dwight Howard, Mike Scott, Anthony Tolliver. My first question to you. So a lot of heat has been whacked onto Ben Simmons and Embiid sometimes in the past, but I just want to run through some events that I think Philadelphia's management deserves way more blame, and I'll see where you think. So I'll go back as 2011, Vucevic. They got him the 16th pick. He was a steal. They gave him 15 minutes, and then they gave him away, turned to an All-Star. Michael Carter-Williams, he won Rookie of the Year. 41 games into his second season, trade him away. And he was the 11th pick, which I think is a steal. Drew Holiday's been an All-Star one time when he was at the Philly. They traded him for Nerlens Noel. They got Jahlil Okafor the next year. Ben Simmons obviously is probably one of the best things to come out of the process as well. But I think in terms of his development and how they've treated him, I don't think that's been a failure. Markelle Fultz, they gave him 33 games in 2 seasons. His rehab looked like they've completely messed it up. Mikal Bridges for Zai Smith, they gave up. Losing Jimmy Butler in 2019, one jump shot away from beating up injured Warriors. You could have won the finals. 2020, I think you had a championship roster. You should have won this year and obviously this offseason. So do you think the management deserves way more blame, more than the players get for this process?
Yes is probably the short answer. But there's just been for so long that we've been stuck in a loop of going round and round of if we can put the right team around Embiid and Simmons, then we'd be good. And year after year, it never seems to come together. Like the 1920 roster with Al Horford and all those, there was not a single bit of shooting anywhere on the roster. It just never made any sense with the pairing that you have of your 2 stars who really you don't want shooting the ball, or you'd like Ben Simmons to shoot the ball, but he's just not going to. So I think, and then going to the coaching, where Brett Brown for years and years, just the rotation was wrong, and it just you can see it so obviously from the outside, yet there was never anything done, even a suggestion from higher management to say, look, this isn't working, we need to change something around here. And then even last year with Doc, who just for the whole season was saying that we don't need Ben to shoot the ball and it's going to work out, and it just never did. Yeah, I think everyone could see by this stage that it wasn't going to work if Ben isn't going to shoot the ball. Even if he just started shooting 15-footers, it'd make such a huge difference. But it's just Ben constantly being told that he doesn't need to shoot the ball is just the wrong thing that's been happening for way too long. And so I think yes, they do need to be held a little bit more accountable for failing to win a championship. Although, like you said, in 18 or whichever year the Raptors won, we probably came within being the luckiest bounce in nearly NBA history of making the finals. So, I don't think you can really hold that one against us, but we were pretty close that year, and I don't think we really had a chance to keep Jimmy. I think he was sort of probably going to head to Miami regardless of what we were going to do. But signing Al Horford probably wasn't a consolation prize.
To be fair, I'm not as down on Philly as I think a lot of people were, because I think a lot of people just look at what happened at the end of the playoffs and what happened with Ben Simmons, obviously, and just flailing out and losing to the Atlanta Hawks, which obviously the Sixers were heavy favourites going into that series. But if you look back at the entirety of last season, you guys had a great regular season, and we talk about the fit, and you just talked about the fit that they put around Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. I thought last season with Daryl Morey coming in, I thought it was the first time they actually got some things right. They got Danny Green, they got Seth Curry, they pushed Tobias Harris obviously to the 4 with Horford going out. I actually thought the shooting around them was actually pretty good, to be honest. And, there's some young guards coming off the bench there. They've got some talent. Tyrese Maxey had a great rookie season. Our man Matisse Thybulle's still there, kind of thing. So I thought you had a great regular season. I don't know if I would have maybe liked to see it ran back one more time. In saying that, obviously we're going to see Simmons go out the door at some point, and that's we've got to talk about it at the end of the day. What are your thoughts on the Ben Simmons situation? If you're Joel Embiid especially, what are your thoughts regarding this situation internally now? Is it a case of, hey, we just need to get this guy out of here and I don't really care what we get in return? Or are you, along with Daryl Morey, playing the hard line of, we want this guy back and we're not trading him until we get an all-star caliber player in return?
I think if you're Embiid, you're probably sick of it. Just the year after year of the one problem is the undoing for us all the time. So I think you're pretty over the situation because of what Embiid's done in the last 3 years, of where he's come from to where he is now, where last year before he got hurt was probably nearly front runner to win MVP there. So that improvement shows that he's put the work in and he's just a monster now, unstoppable. There's not many people in the league that can slow him down. So, and Ben would have the same ability because of his physicality and what he could do. He could just be such an all-round weapon. So I think if you're Embiid, you want it fixed now ASAP. It's getting to a point where this is getting out of hand. But I think he also understands that we're going to need, if we're going to be competing for a title, we're going to need to get fair value back in return. And unlike when other superstars get a little bit disgruntled, that's generally when they've got 1 or 1.5 years left on their contract. He's locked up for 4 years, so yeah. And every training session or game that he misses, he gets fined $302,000 or something. He's going to get sick of it. He's not going to be able to sit it out for 4 years. He's going to go broke. So he can't hold out forever, I don't think. So he had the quote, "It's not my job to fix my trade value." Well, I'm pretty sure it is. It's not Philly's job. If you're locked up on this much money and you reckon that it's the team's job to make you look good, just go out there, play 15 games where you look serviceable like you did in the regular season last year, put up 16, 8 and 8 and play the defense that you do, and someone will be happy to snuggle you up. But it's just, I think that's sort of...
Are you telling me there's a world there where you think that Ben Simmons will don a 76ers uniform again?
I think he'll have to.
So you reckon you want your organisation to stick fat and basically, as they've been saying, unless we get fair value, which we know Daryl Morey has a very high opinion of Ben Simmons and what he's worth, you think they'll just keep playing it out and eventually Ben will look at the money that's getting deducted out of his bank account or not put into his bank account and he'll actually come back to the team?
I'm not sure. Like, it's going to be hard, but it'll either just get so messy that it's just won't be able to happen. But I think Clutch obviously think they swing a fair bit of weight in the NBA. So yeah. I think they're like the way that they're talking, like he only wants to go to one of the 3 Californian teams. Well, not sure Clutch is actually 4 of them in California. So like, it's just, they've got a very small list of where they want to go, but it's like Philadelphia I think they have the right as an organization to not just get rid of him for a bag of chips. Because at the end of the day, if he gets put in the right situation, he could just blow up and it'll make us look silly. So I think everyone's pretty conscious of that fact, because I think everybody knows how good he could be. So they and the trade offers that they were throwing around before the draft, I think everyone could tell that was just more. He rang everyone and said, "Give me your best player," and everybody obviously said no. So yeah. He was just trying to drive up his value again and not just let his value totally bottom out. Like, he was trying to just let everybody know that we still, as an organisation, think that he's worth a lot. So you guys sort of should too. So yeah, I think that was sort of all that was. But it's we're obviously not going to get something like that. But it's sort of, and it makes it hard too, because a package of picks is sort of not what we're after. We need a player in return to fit the timeline. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
I've never seen a situation just turn to a dumpster fire so quickly in terms of how it's managed. And because you're already embarrassed enough that you didn't give up Harden, and you're seeing how he thrived at the Nets. So you need a Harden-esque at a minimum sort of package. And then obviously Lillard's saying, no, he looks like he's going to stay in Portland now. So, and he would have been the perfect player to swap for him. But I've never seen a situation go this sour so quickly.
Yeah. It horrible. It went very quickly.
We know he's trying to hold out for Portland to start sucking at the beginning of the season, for Dame to request a trade, and then he can use the Ben Simmons ship. That we just we know that's what he's doing, kind of thing. But if Dame doesn't come to the party and Portland are maybe better than what people expect, and Dame's happy to stay there, which, as you say, Lee, he is at the moment, then that point's never going to come. And also, if it does come, who says that Philly with Ben Simmons has the best offer anyway? So it's like he's holding out for a very hypothetical, minimal chance situation, really. So it's a super difficult one. But how about we get on to where you actually rank them in the Eastern Conference? So the over-under line is 51.5. I know it's a no bet for me because of the Simmons situation. You just don't know what's happening with that. You don't know who he's going to get traded for in return. So it's a tough one to pick.
Yeah, it's. I reckon I'd agree with you. It's a definite stay away on it if you're going to bet on it. It's because of the Simmons situation. Who knows what's going to happen there? Whether we end up with an all-star player back in return and we keep ticking along sort of as we were, or whether we end up with something that is about 50 cents on the dollar and we're a little bit down, or whether he stays. Who knows what's going to happen? So I think we could finish anywhere from 6th, probably all the way through to competing for first spot, I reckon.
Where have you got them, Lee?
That's fair enough. I've got. It's a no bet. I'm not even touching this one. I've got no clue, mate.
Where have you got them ranked though in the standings?
I had them with the idea that Simmons is going to play the season third regular season, because they're a good regular season team.
I have them 4th, but yeah, I don't know. The other thing for me with like not betting on that 51.5 line is, one, I don't think Simmons will. Okay, my thought is I don't think Simmons will ever play for them again. And secondly, I actually think even if he doesn't, Joel Embiid is that good that they could still be a top 5 seed, because he's a top 3 MVP caliber player. So with that in mind, though, and the 51.5 line, that just puts so much pressure on Embiid, and we know the injury history that he has had in the past. And if Simmons isn't playing, and then all of a sudden Embiid's out for a month with an injury, what is this team? Kind of thing. They are gonna struggle mightily. So I don't know. I got them 4th, but they could be anywhere between 2nd and I mean, if Simmons doesn't play and then Embiid's out for half the season, they could miss the playoffs.
There you go. Could be anything and everything. Any final...
Where do you have them, Ferg? Where do you have them?
Yeah, where do you have them?
I would probably say fifth, I reckon, just because if Ben doesn't play, then it's going to be a lot of weight on Embiid, and we know he's going to have to sit every so often just to make sure we can get him to the end of the year. And Tobias he's not good enough to, unless we're playing someone stinky, I don't think we're going to get through many of those games. But, it's also shaping up for Embiid to really ram home an MVP season this year. If Ben doesn't play and Embiid can play north of 70 games, then look out.
He's a monster.
Anyway, thanks for joining us, mate. Hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Much planned?
No, not a lot at all. Not a lot at all, boys. Thank you very much for having me. It was great to be on.
No worries, mate. Thank you very much for joining us. And next up, we'll finish the Atlantic Division with the Toronto Raptors. Alrighty, the Toronto Raptors finishing us off here. I'm super interested to see where you have them, because we obviously know they had a disappointing year last season, but a lot of that was to do with the fact they weren't in Toronto at all. They had to play their home games in Tampa Bay, and I don't know, they made some moves in the off-season. They brought in Precious Achiuwa and Goran Dragic, obviously in that trade, taking out Kyle Lowry. They brought in Scotty Barnes in the draft, got a nice high pick there. Sam Dekker, remember him? Jeez, he hasn't played in the league for a few years.
Remember him.
It used to be not too bad on Houston, to be honest. Svi Mikhailuk is there as well. They re-signed Gary Trent Jr. and Ken Birch. Out to go the Australian Aaron Baines, DeAndre Bembry, Rodney Hood, Stanley Johnson, and the aforementioned Kyle Lowry. So they had a down year last year. We obviously know they only won a title 3 seasons ago. What's the direction for them now? Is it back to the playoffs immediately now that they've kind of consolidated the roster a little bit and they're going to be back in Toronto? Or do they want another top pick alongside Scotty Barnes to continue this development kind of thing?
I think I've said this for a number of teams, but I think you've got a very exciting young core. As you know, I think Scotty Barnes, if he taps into his full potential, could be Giannis-esque in the way he plays. And I think now is that you can start almost feeling out which players are going to be part of your future. So actually playing Scotty Barnes high minutes, giving those young Precious Achiuwa, giving him high minutes in games, because you're not expected to go back to the. You're still quite young. You've traded away all of your, established vets. So start feeling out who's going to be here, who's going to be part of your future. Giving them high minutes, putting them in high pressure situations. You're a top class organization. You're back at home as well. I think that's going to be a massive thing, because you just mentioned they were in Tampa Bay, and I think the Raptors fans are some of the craziest in the league. So I think giving those young players a lot of minutes and starting to feel out. And I think inadvertently you're going to lose games because they're just young players. That's just how it's going to happen. Inadvertently you're going to get a high pick for it. I'd love to see probably a point guard. I still think Fred VanVleet is more of a sixth man, like a really high-end sixth man compared to like a starting point guard. And Dragic is probably on his last leg. He's slowing down a bit. So that'll probably be the direction I'd want to see them going in. Do you think they'll realistically make playoffs?
No, I don't have them making playoffs. I don't. First of all, I just want to see the dynamic of this organisation, and particularly Scotty Barnes and Pascal Siakam. Because to me, it's pretty clear, I think, from an external perspective, that they should just be building around Scotty Barnes, that he's just the man to build around now. But I think Pascal Siakam would realistically look at it and think, hang on a second, I was the second best player, basically, on a championship team that helped you win a championship 3 seasons ago. You've just paid me basically max money to be here. Does he have a right to think that, hey, I'm the franchise player? Or do you think it's all, let's build around Scotty Barnes and Pascal Siakam's just a piece of that?
If he came to me and I was the Raptors front office, I'd literally put up his numbers from last year and say, mate, look, this is why you weren't. This is why you're not the franchise player, because you saw what the pressure of being a number one is, and he couldn't hack it. He wasn't built to be a number one. I don't think he should be a good defender. I've seen him do like weak side blocks and stuff, but I think Scotty Barnes, the upside that he has compared to Pascal Siakam is ridiculous. So yeah, I don't think he has a case to say, hey, listen, I'm better. I should be the man. Why? Do you reckon he has a case?
No, maybe. I mean, he helped them he brought a championship to Toronto. I just think there's going to be a point here where I think it's difficult for a player to go from the man on a team to the second best man when the new man is a rookie. Like, does that not feel like, from an egotistical standpoint, we're all men here kind of thing in the NBA. Like, do you just think that, you just look across and just be like, I don't want to take a step back to a rookie. I don't care how talented he is. I don't care what pick he was. Like, I helped bring this team a championship. You've paid me max money. Like, if I'm Pascal Siakam, I still think I'm the man. Now, I think it's going to get really tricky because I think the franchise would want to build around Scotty Barnes, and I think everyone outside the Raptors would agree with that. But for Pascal Siakam, I wouldn't necessarily agree with it. So to me, especially given the fact they're similar type of players as well, as like 6'9", 6'10", long guys, can handle the ball a bit. The shooting is a question mark. Siakam's probably become a reasonably reliable three-point shooter kind of thing. Scotty Barnes, we know what his defense is going to bring. Similar kind of players, play a similar role. Siakam, I wouldn't be surprised if at the end of the season Siakam's on a different team. I'm going to put that out there. That's my call. I think Pascal Siakam might be on a different team by the end of the season, by the trade deadline.
Exactly what I was thinking, because I'm just putting myself in their shoes. If I was a player and I saw they drafted someone exactly like me, they've traded away the veterans, they're going younger, I'd be like, all right, I think I've read the tea leaves. I think it's time for me to go. But I'm going to laud their young core. OG, Precious, Scotty Barnes, even Gary Trent Jr., who had the past couple of seasons, he has breakout player. Where do you rank this young core compared to most of the other young cores in the NBA?
Well, Barnes is going to be the swing of it, really. Because to me, those other guys, OG, he's been around for a few years now. We kind of know what he is. He's still got some improvement left in him, that's for sure. But I don't think he projects as an all-star at any stage of his career. Precious Achiuwa, not an overly high pick, showed some signs for Heat last year. But at the end of the day, if they really loved Precious Achiuwa, then they probably would have tried to find a way to keep him. And they're obviously happy to put him in the Kyle Lowry deal. So Scotty Barnes, for me, is the guy that is going to swing things. Can this guy be a franchise cornerstone where he is, an all-star caliber player at the very minimum? So that's going to be the question mark. And until I see it, it's going to be difficult to rank them against a lot of other teams around their kind of position. Like if I say the Hornets kind of thing, I'd rather the Hornets young core with, LaMelo, and obviously just bringing in James Bouknight and Kai Jones and stuff like that. Obviously, I've seen LaMelo ball for a season. I know what he is now kind of thing and what he can become. I just haven't seen Scotty Barnes yet. That's not to say that Scotty Barnes can't be a fantastic, great NBA player. I just haven't seen it yet. So I can't rank their core higher than, say, Charlotte Hornets, for example. But I know their over-under line is 36.5. Where have you got them?
I've got them probably maybe even slightly over. And why I wanted to ask you about their young core is my optimism for them comes more for who the Toronto Raptors are as a franchise. Because why I worry about young people at Orlando, even Charlotte to a degree, their track record of developing players, making good management moves is horrific. And when I look at the Raptors, they found the Fred VanVleets. Aaron Baines had some monster games for them. They find these little diamonds in the rough, and their development coach, well, whoever they are, must do an incredible job. So if I was a young player, I think that's why my optimism, I've got them ranked right up there with the young cores. But yeah, I still have them finishing 11th, though. I think this year will just be a feel-out year. Where do you have them?
Yeah, I have them 12th. So it's the same, similar situation, which I don't know, because when I kind of look at the team on paper, and I think if Siakam's there and they find a way for that to work alongside Scotty Barnes, who has a good rookie season, alongside VanVleet, OG Anunoby, Gary Trent Jr., they've got, Precious has a good year. I think they could make the playoffs. They've got upside there to be able to make the playoffs, but as we spoke about with Ferg before in regards to Philly, we spoke about with Bass before in regards to the Knicks, a lot of the East has just gotten better. And Toronto have probably kind of stabilised things a bit in terms of they've lost Kyle Lowry, which hurts, but then they've brought in some young talent. So to me, they're not necessarily worse than what they were last season, but they're not a whole lot better, I don't think. So I think they're going to be around the mark of what they were last season. I don't think getting a another top 5, 6 pick if they can is necessarily going to be too harmful. But yeah, I would almost like them to reset just one more step, and that one more step is Siakam out, try and get another top 10 pick in there. If they can get two top 7, 8 picks in this draft coming up to go alongside Scotty Barnes, to go alongside Fred VanVleet, OG Anunoby, and the likes, that would be kind of my go-to. But it also depends on what we see from Barnes this season.
Yeah, a point guard, a young, exciting point guard, yeah, from the draft or some other team, I reckon will be the final piece for their future. But, mate, this, as we said, this division, there's so many storylines to come out of it. I love having our mates. I reckon we're going to have to make it a normal thing, getting our mates to check in every now and then, come rep their teams and give us their take on their biased takes on their teams.
Yeah, we just told Ferg that he's going to have to definitely come on once Simmons does get traded, whenever that may be. But, yeah, over-underline for the Raptors. I'm on under 36.5. Did you have anything here that you like? Because Brooklyn and short price favourites to win the division. Any of these over-underlines interest you at all? Because, obviously, our last podcast on Thursday, we had no bets there, basically, that we liked either. I don't know. I'm just looking through here. I think the Nets can win 60 games, but as we spoke about with Heyward, they're not necessarily focused on that. I don't know. Can I mouth out one more time and say the Knicks under 41.5? I don't know.
I don't know if we'll get Alec Bastick back on here again, but yeah, mate, I think that's probably the safest one. The East, I've looked at the teams above them in terms of top end talent they've got compared to the Knicks. Yeah, Knicks under, I reckon, is probably our best bet from this.
I don't know. You can call that. I'm sticking clear because we underrated the Knicks so much last year, and look what they did. So I'm not about to go betting on the under 41.5, but. Anyway, other than that, we're pumping through these previews for each team. We got 4 down now, 2 to go. Let's see how we go, and we'll get some award predictions as well before the season starts. And we've got a little betting competition that I'll chuck out on social media in the next few days. A few ideas that we're throwing up that people may enjoy. But other than that, Lee, enjoy the rest of your Sunday in lockdown in Melbourne.
I'll try my best, mate. All the best with you, mate. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks, guys. And remember to check us out across social media.